Hello, good day everyone. Today we are learning another chapter, which is chapter 8, producing quality goods and services. So first of all, we would like to understand what is defined as production. So sometimes we call the terms as production, or we can also call them as operations management. Basically what it means is that these are all the activities required to produce goods and services. Every organization will have a production or operations management department. Yeah. And in order to produce a product or services successfully, so the business must perform several number of activities. This include marketing research. It also includes planning. It also includes control of operations, which is understanding product quality, measuring performance standards, identifying and measuring performance standards, taking care of the inventories, and also production costs. We will be learning some of this as we pass through the chapter. These slides discuss about America's manufacturing industry. Although it's in America, but we can still learn from it. We also need to know history because America used to be one of the most productive country in the world. So actually after World War II, the United States have become the most productive country in the world. And for almost about 30 years, until the late 1970s, US manufacturing leadership was never threatened. They were still the best. But then again, however, slowly manufacturers from Japan, Germany, Great Britain, Italy, Korea, Sweden, and other industrialized nations, they were slowly, increasingly competing with US firms, and they were doing well. Now, the Chinese are manufacturing almost everything from sophisticated electronic equipments and automobiles to less expensive everyday items. Yeah, and a lot of times the Chinese manufacturing industry, they can manufacture things often at a lower cost than some of the goods that can be manufactured in other countries. Due to this, United States have seen that the number of the manufacturing jobs in their country have declined. However, it's important to note that despite the manufacturing jobs in United States have declined, their productivity have actually increased. So there are two reasons why this happened. You can see here, these are the two reasons. Number one is innovation. Number two is actually about highly skilled workers. Innovation first. Innovation by essence is just finding a better way to produce product. And this is actually one of the key factors that have enabled American manufacturers to compete in the global marketplace. They were very good in finding better ways to produce products. Yeah. Number two is workers. Workers in manufacturing sector in United States have actually become very, very highly skilled. Therefore, they were able to make more goods with fewer employees. Despite this, United States government officials, elected officials, were really focusing on reshoring. They still focus on reshoring. Reshoring means that we are bringing back jobs into our country. So some of the jobs that have manufacturing jobs that have left United States, United States officials were trying to bring them back into United States. Yeah, this have happened during several presidency and until now also. Moving on, we will be learning several terms in operations management. Throughout this lecture, you will be learning a couple of terms. Yeah, the first term that we are learning now is actually mass production. Mass production is a manufacturing process which lowers down the cost required to produce huge number of products, but the product must be identical, and they normally do it over a long period of time. So it's just a way of lowering down the cost by mass producing something that is identical or similar. The next one is analytical process and synthetic process. They are different between these two. Analytical process is just a process whereby we take the raw material and then we broke down. We take the raw material, we process them, and we broke down into several different components. If you can see here in the examples provided, we take a barrel of crude oil. So we take a barrel of crude oil, and then from one barrel of crude oil, we can broke down into several different products like gasoline, oil, lubricant, and other chemical-based product. Yeah, petroleum-based product. And then we also look at synthetic process. Synthetic process is the opposite of analytical process. If analytical is breaking one product, breaking into different type of products, synthetic process is when we combine the raw materials to provide or to produce a finished product. For example, we combine several types of chemicals and then we get a different type of plastics. So it's combining instead of breaking down. Now we move on to conversion process, or the process of converting raw material into product. Before that, we have to understand that the purpose of manufacturing either a product or services is to provide utility to customers. What utility means is that utility is the ability to satisfy a human need. So we are using a product to satisfy a human need, and we learned about this last time. There are four types of utility. There's form utility, there's possession utility, there's place utility, there's time utility. It's listed here, I believe. Yeah, there's four types of utility: form, place, time, and possession utility. They all are supposed to satisfy human needs, but for production they focus solely on form utility. What is form utility? We create utility, we satisfy people needs by converting raw material into finished products. Yeah, this is the conversion process, as you can see here. So I'm going to allow you to read this for a while. So basically it's just we take inputs, we convert them through several processes, and then we get an output. You can pause this video and read this for a while. Okay guys, we are still in the manufacturing process and also in conversion process. Remember, conversion is changing. Yeah, so the conversion of resources into product or services can be described in at least three ways. The first one is focus, number two, magnitude of change, number three, number of production processes. Focus first. The focus of a conversion process refers to the resources that comprise the major or most important input. So the resources are normally financial, material, information, and people. Okay, and when you look at magnitude of change, the magnitude of change means that the magnitude of conversion process is the degree to which the resources are physically changed. Remember again, magnitude of change means that it's the degree, the level to which the resources are physically changed. Are they being changed into a little bit, or it requires huge amount of change for us to get the output? Let's take a look at the third one. Okay, the third one is number of production processes. What this means actually, normally a single firm, they might use one production processes or several different production processes. But in general, the larger firm that produce a lot of different variety of product, they would use multiple production processes. Yeah. Okay, normally when we talk about production, people always think that it's producing goods, which is tangible items, but in reality we can also produce services. A lot of company, they produce services, and most countries, they strive to produce more and more services, because this is also an indicator that they have developed as a country. Yeah, we apply the same principle of production to the production of services, but there are some differences which we will look later on. Remember, American economy and some countries, developed countries also now, they are actually characterized as a service economy. What is a service economy? Service economy is one which is more effort is given to the production of services. So when a country puts more effort to produce services, the country slowly have a service economy. Let's move on and take a look a little bit on the production of services. So the production of services is actually very different from production of manufactured goods. Yeah, for here we give 5 different things about manufacturing or producing services. The first one, here, you can see customers. Okay, when it comes to production of services, the customers are far more involved in obtaining the service rather than goods. Yeah. Number 2, the service normally when we produce, they are consumed almost immediately and they cannot be stored. For example, if you go and produce and cut your hair, you have to consume immediately, and you are more involved, and we cannot store haircut. Yeah? The third one, services are provided when and where the customers wants the service instead of goods. Number 4, services are normally more labor intensive. They require more people, human beings, to be involved. Number 5, services are intangible. So because they are intangible, it is a little bit tough to evaluate the customer satisfaction. And if we compare companies that produce services and companies that produce goods, so company that produce services, they normally listen more carefully to the customers, and they also have to respond more quickly to the market's changing needs. So today's successful service firm, they work very hard to provide services that the customers want. They often listen more carefully to customers, and they also again have to respond more quickly to the market changing needs. Now we move on and we focus a little bit deeper into one of the processes required to produce high quality goods or services, which is called as R&D. So for our purpose, research and development, R&D, is a set of activities intended to identify new ideas that have potential to result in goods and services. So today, business firms, they use three general types of R&D activities. You can see here. The first one is a basic research. Basic research, it includes activities that are aimed to discover new knowledge. So it doesn't matter whether they have a potential use in the development of goods or not, but we just want to have new knowledge. That is called as basic research. Number two is applied research. Here, this one. Let me put it here. Applied research, it involves activities that are geared to discovering new knowledge with some potential use. So we do applied research because we want to discover new knowledge with applied use, potential use. Number three, development and implementation. So when it comes to development and implementations, these are research activities undertaken specifically to put new or existing knowledge to use in producing goods or services. Now we look at product extension and refinement. See, when a new product is first marketed, their sales are normally zero, and then slowly it increases. If the product is successful, then the annual sale increase more and more and more until they reach some kind of peak. Then as time passes, annual sales begin to decline, and they would continue to decline until it is no longer profitable to manufacture the product. You see, if a firm sells only one product, when the product reaches the end of its life cycle, the firm will die together with the product. So to stay in business, the firm must at least find ways to extend or refine their capability to satisfy people's needs. And for most firms, extension and refinement are actually expected result of the research, development, and implementation strategies. Okay, now we move on for planning for production. So how do managers actually plan production? You see, in real life, people come up with so many ideas on a daily basis, but only a small few ideas that would actually reach to production stage. Most of the other ideas would be scrapped off for various reasons. For those ideas that do make it to production stage, the next step is planning for production, which involves three different phases. The first one is actually design planning. You can see here, design planning. Phase number two is facilities planning. Number three, operational planning. These are the three things that production managers have to think of or figure out. Let's take a look at the first one. The first step is design planning. What is design planning? Design planning is the development of a plan to convert a product idea into an actual product or service. So the major decision involved in design planning deals with product line, required production capacity, and also use of technology. So we're going to look at product line first. What is a product line? Product line is a group of similar product that differs only in relatively minor characteristics. Again, I repeat, product line is actually a group of similar product, but they have some differences which is quite minor. So those are all product lines. An important issue when we come to decide on product line is to balance customer preference and also production requirement. We have to balance what customer wants, what they prefer, and also our production requirements. So marketing managers, they play an important role to make product line decisions. And each distinct product with a product line must be designed. Product design is the process of creating a set of specifications from which the product can be produced. Next, we go to required production capacity. What is a capacity first? Capacity is the amount of products or services that an organization can produce in a given of time. I repeat again, capacity is just the amount of products that a company can produce in a given of time. So we have to look into our capacity as a company. So operations managers, they work with firms' marketing managers, and they must determine the required capacity. Both of them have to communicate and determine what is the required capacity. This determines the size of the production facility. If the facility is built with too much capacity, valuable resources will not be used. But if the facility offers insufficient capacity, then we have to add on capacity later on, which might be more expensive because of we make a mistake previously. Yeah? And we also need to look at the capacity of a service business. What is the capacity of service business? It's just the number of customers that they can serve at one time. So if you are in service, you need to look at capacity. How many customers can you serve at one time? That's your capacity. Yeah? Then we also look into use of technology here. Use of technology. Managers, they must determine the degree to which automation will be used to produce a product or service. And there is a trade-off between high initial costs and low operating costs for automation, or low initial costs and high operating costs for human labor. So if we, a company, wants to use heavy automation, our initial cost would be very high, but our operating cost would be very low. If we want to use more human labor, therefore our initial cost would be very low, but our operating cost would be quite high. So there are two types of labor use of technology. The first one is labor intensive technology. When a company says that we are labor intensive technology, it means that most of the processes are done by people. People do most of the work. When a company says they are capital intensive technology, here it means that most of the processes are being used by machines and equipment technology who do most of the work. The next part is facilities planning. So initially, managers, they must decide whether they want to build a new plant, a new factory, or refurbish an existing factory. So generally, a business will choose to produce a new product in existing factory as long as the existing factory have enough capacity to handle the demand for new and established product. Or maybe, the cost of refurbing existing factory is less than cost of building a new one, then we will use our current existing factory. So these are the two main reasons why we use the current factory. But after exploring the capacity of our existing factory, management must decide to build a new production facility if they need. Yeah. So to determine, let's say they decided, yes, we have existing factory, but it's not sufficient. We have to add one more production facility or production factory, call it. So what they do is that they must consider several things when they decide where to build this factory. These are the things that they would have to consider: the locations of major customers and suppliers, the availability and cost of skilled and unskilled labor, the quality of life for employees and management inside the proposed location, the cost of land, the cost of construction to build the new facility or factory, the local and state taxes, environmental regulation, zoning laws, and also the amount of financial support, subsidies offered by the government or local government. And also they will also look into special requirements such as whether they need huge amount of energy or they need huge amount of water, so they have to find location that fits this kind of factors. These are some of the main factors that would decide where we would build our new factory. Once we have decided where we would build our new factory, for example, then we would also look into plant layout, which is the factory layout. What is a plant layout? It's just the arrangement of machines, equipment, and also people within the production facility or factory. So we arrange. So there are three general types of plant layout which is being used worldwide. The first one is process layout. You can see here. Number 2, product layout. Number 3, fixed position layout. Only 3. Let's take a look at each of these with example. You can see the first one here is process layout. The process layout is used when different operations are required to create small batches of different products, or maybe working on different parts of a product. So the plant is arranged so that each operations, they perform at their own particular area. They still work together, but they can perform their own work at their own particular area. The next one is product layout, this part here. Product layout is also known as assembly line. People normally call it as assembly line. And this is normally used when all the product have to undergo same sequence to become an output. Yeah. So work flows from one station to another. Okay. Let me wrap this off a little bit. And then lastly, we can also see the last part, which is a fixed position layout. This part here. Fixed position layout is normally used when we are building or creating a very large product. Example like ships, aeroplanes. So the product stays there, remains stationary, but the people and machines, they move as needed to assemble the products. Okay guys, now we discuss on operational planning. The objective of operational planning is to decide on the amount of product or service each facility will produce during a given specific period of time. So we require 4 steps. The first step is actually selecting a planning horizon. What is a planning horizon? Planning horizon is the time period during which the plan will be in effect. So normally the planning horizon for most facilities is just for 1 year. So planning horizon of 1 year is actually long enough to average out seasonal increase and decrease in sales, but it is also short enough to ensure that the planners can adjust production to accommodate long range sales trend. However, if you are in a firm which have a lot of changing business environment, you have a lot of competitors, then normally we would shorten the planning horizon even further. Yeah, but normally it's just 1 year. Step 2, just now step 1. Step 2 is when we estimate market demand. The demand for market demand is actually the demand for a product is the quantity that the customers will purchase at the going price. So we would actually estimate how much quantity the customer will purchase at the going price. Number 3, then only we compare market demand with capacity. How much the market demand wants, what is the capacity that we do. And this would allow us to see whether the facility would have the capability to meet the market demand or the other way around. Let's take a look at some of the results that might come out from comparing market demand and also capacity. This next part is actually still under operational planning, but here we look at step number 4. Just now we already discussed about the layout, we discussed about capacity, we discussed about where to find the location, whether we should use or build new factory. So this is step number 4. It is called as adjusting products or services to meet demand. You see, company have to change sometimes the firm's production schedule. The main reason why sometimes they have to change the production schedule is because there is a change of the amount of product or services that a company sells to their customers. So let's say there's a market demand and the market demand exceeds the company's the factory's capacity. If the market demand exceeds the capacity, there are several options available. The first one, we can increase our output by operating the facility over time. Yeah. Number 2, we can also take some of the work and we give it to somebody else. We call subcontracted. So a portion of the work can be subcontracted to some other people. Number 3, if a demand still exceeds capacity, we can also, let's say it's permanent, we know it's going to be a very long or permanent thing, we can expand our facility. Number 4, sometimes company just ignore the excess demand. So they just take whatever they can. Yeah? But let's say we have a capacity, we have a market demand. This time around, the capacity actually exceeds the market demand. Market demand less than capacity. So we still have some other options. The first one, we reduce output temporarily. We might remove some worker, we lay off some worker. And also maybe part of the facility may be shut down. Number 2, maybe we can also operate the facility at a shorter than normal work week. Yeah, to ensure that we can reduce the capacity. Number 3, we might, let's say we have a permanently decreased demand. So management may shift the excess capacity to the production of other goods and services. Number 4, we can also eliminate by selling unused facility. If the market demand is still lower than capacity, you can just sell off some of these unused facilities. Okay guys, this is our lecture code for today. You can just use this lecture code as part of your attendance. Thank you. We will move on to the next part here. The next part brings us to another term we call as operations control. There are 4 important areas of operations control. Yeah? The first one is purchasing. When it comes to operations control, we want to control operation. So purchasing. We also have the second area, inventory control, scheduling, and quality control. This is what we're going to look at slowly. First things first, purchasing. What is purchasing? Purchasing is just all the activities that are involved to obtain the required material, the required supplies and parts from another firm. So the objective of purchasing is to ensure that all the required materials are available when we need them, they are in the proper amounts, and also they are at a minimum cost. we have a company would have employees that handle purchasing. We call this as purchasing personnel. So a purchasing personnel should always be on the lookout to find new or backup suppliers, even when our current supplier are actually meeting all their needs. So the choice of choosing a supplier normally comes from several factors. The factors are listed here. We choose supplier based on the price, based on the quality, based on how reliable they are, credit terms, and also shipping costs. Okay, after purchasing comes inventory control. You see, operations manager, they really realize the disaster that might happen if we have a shortage of materials. And normally these are concerned with three types of inventories. The first one, the raw material inventory. Raw material inventory consists of material that will become a part of the product during the production process. Number two, the work in process inventory. The work in process inventory consists of partially completed products. Number three, the finished goods inventory. These are completed goods awaiting shipment to customers. Again, we have three types of inventory: raw material, work in process, which is not completed yet, partially completed product, and lastly, finished goods inventory. We might have to store all three of these. Okay. Therefore, inventory control is important. What is inventory control? Inventory control is the process to manage our inventories to minimize our inventory or storing costs, which include holding costs and potential stock out costs. So what is a holding cost? Holding cost is a storage cost. What is a potential stock out cost? The cost of running. Stock out cost is the cost of running out of inventory when we need them. So because of this, normally we use some methods to help with inventory control. One of the most sophisticated method for inventory control used today is material requirement planning. Material requirement planning, or also known as MRP, is actually a computerized system. They integrate production planning. They also integrate with inventory control. So MRP here, materials requirement planning. A manager, they use MRP system. If a manager use this MRP system, they can actually arrange both orders and delivery schedules so that the material, parts and supplies, they all arrive when they are needed. We also need to look at a just-in-time inventory system. This is another system. A just-in-time inventory system is popular. It is designed to ensure that the materials or supplies arrive at the facility just when they are needed, so that the storage and holding costs are minimized. When we use JIT, just-in-time system, we ensure that all the materials and supply, they come exactly at the time that we need. Therefore, we do not have to bear a lot of costs in terms of storage or holding the materials. Yeah. Next, we move on to scheduling. What is scheduling? Scheduling is just the process to make sure that the materials and every other resources, they are available at the right place at the right time. So these materials and resources, they can be raw material, sub-assemblies, work in process, or even finished goods. So place and time are very important to scheduling purposes for two reasons. The first, when we talk about place, the routing of material is very important because we need the sequence of the workstation to be there so that the material will follow suit. Second, the timing functions. The timing function specifies when the material will arrive at each station and how long they will remain there. This would really help in terms of scheduling all the raw materials, all the materials and other resources needed. Okay guys, in production, there's one important aspect that we cannot ignore. That is called as quality control. Quality control is actually the process to ensure that our goods and services that we produce, they are meeting the design specification. So the major objective of quality control is to see that the organization, they live up to the standard that they have set on quality. Companies have several methods to ensure good quality. We have quality circles, we have inspections, total quality management or TQM, Six Sigma, and also others. But we are not learning them all today. So we are going to look at additional things here. Still in quality control. Without a common standard of quality, the customers, they might be at the mercy of manufacturers and vendors. And as the number of companies competing in the world marketplace have increased, so have the seriousness of this problem. Therefore, the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, International Organization for Standardization, this is actually a non-profit organization based in Geneva, Switzerland. They have a membership of over 161 countries. And they have brought together, ISO have brought together a panel of quality experts to define what methods a company must use to produce a quality goods. Why they do it? To standardize the practice all over the world. So they would give you a certificate. This certification, issued by independent auditors and laboratory testing services, they would serve as evidence that a company have met the standards of quality control procedures in manufacturing design. They have met the quality control in production processes. They have met the quality control in product testing, training of employees, record keeping, correction of defects. Although this certification is actually not a legal requirement to do business, you can do business without ISO. It's not a legal requirement. However, most of the countries actually they have approved the ISO standard, and sometimes ISO is so strong around the globe that many customers, they don't want to do business with a company that does not have that is not ISO certified. Okay, this is a quick summary of what we have discussed just now. So you can pause this video for a few seconds and read it. This is another summary of what we have discussed just now. You can also pause this video and read it. So the next part is actually about improving productivity in a factory. Companies are very concerned with productivity. Just to have a quick definition, remember, productivity is defined as the average level of output per worker per hour. I repeat again, productivity is defined as average level of output per worker per hour. Now, companies are very concerned about productivity and they would like to improve productivity. One of the way for them to improve productivity is by using lean manufacturing. What is a lean manufacturing? This is a concept, it's an idea. The concept says that we should eliminate waste from all activities required to produce a product or service. So a company that uses lean manufacturing would try to eliminate as much waste as possible in all of the steps to produce the product or services. So there are a lot of benefits towards it. We can, if we use proper lean manufacturing, we can increase our profit, we can improve quality, we reduce the amount of resources needed, we are more efficient in terms of using our employees' time, so those kind of things. Yeah, of course there's also additional benefit like motivation, stuff like that. This slide discusses about the impact of automation, robotics and computers on productivity. Without a doubt, we know that more and more companies are investing substantial amount of money to increase their productivity by using automation, robotics or computers. What is automation first? Automation is when we use machines to do the work. Most of the time we use total or most of our work being done by machines. That's automation. Companies love this. And then when we talk about robotics, this is when we use machines, we program them and we ask them to do several tasks. Yeah, and to manipulate tools, materials, and then to perform certain specific tasks. So robots are very good because they are effective, they are not tired, they can do repetitive jobs, a lot of repetitive jobs, and they can also handle dangerous material. And then we also look at computer manufacturing system. We have CAD, CAM, CIM. So CAD is when computer aided design. We use computer to aid in development of the product, to design the product. When it comes to CAM, computer aided manufacturing, we use computer to plan and control the manufacturing process. And then when we use computer integrated manufacturing, which is the ultimate level, CIM, this is when we use a computer to help design the product, control the machines until we produce all the products. Okay, that's it. That's a little bit of information, some terms that we learned about this chapter. Thank you.